Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
And it was a no-brainer that we would ask Hornell Mayor John Buckley on after yesterday's great news for the city of Hornell. Mr. Mayor, thanks for coming in.
Well, it is a beautiful day in the Maple City, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on today.
The $10 million downtown revitalization grant. What can you give us information-wise about that? What can you tell us as far as how does the money get broken down? Who does it go to, and so on? So what do we know so far?
Well, let me give you a little background on the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, first of all. The city has been applying for this for the last 4 years, and we've come close. We were just on the outside of it the last few years, and looking at past applications, I felt we had a very strong application. And so going into this year's round of DRI applications, we assembled our team and we looked at it, and we looked at it in not the sense of what we were doing wrong, but what other communities are doing right. So we looked at the winning applications from the winning municipalities over the last several years. Just to see, what stood out. What were they doing right? What was exceptional about their applications? And based off that, we changed our approach, and we really dressed up our application this year. We brought in some new faces to the team that really added a lot of value to really elevate our application and take it to the next level. I think even though our applications in the past were based on solid information, and we absolutely had the need for the grant, I think it was lacking that wow factor, and so that's what we did this year. We really dressed up the application, and this grant is far different from typical grants, Brian, where the typical grant process is you fill out the form online, submit it via email. It goes up to some bureaucrat in Albany for review. They look at it, decide, yes or no. But this grant process is far different. This is very, very competitive, highly competitive. You compete against other municipalities, and you get narrowed down to the top three. So they take the top three. So there could be 20 applicants in the pool. They'll take the top three, and then when you're chosen to be in that top three, you actually go and compete in person. So, it's unlike any other grant process I've ever seen. So, you have to have a person that has a lot of energy and can really, sell the points and kind of bring it home, and which we did. And, it's just such a great day, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the team members that made it all possible before we get into some of the details. First and foremost, a huge thank you to city planner Heather Reynolds. She just did an amazing job writing and crafting the narrative of our application, really, Brian, telling the story of Hornell, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. The city engineering aide, Ashley Weekland, who did all the digital mapping of the DRI boundaries and spent countless hours working outside of her normal hours of work. She did an amazing job and was just a vital member of that team. Mitch Cornish, our DPW superintendent, and John Carbone, our 10th Ward alderman, they put in a lot of time and had a lot of inputs and insight. Professor Rex Simpson from up in Alfred, he's retired, but he's an architect by trade, and he did all the renderings and drawings to really strengthen our application and take it to that next level. Christiana Walter, she works for the Evening Tribune. She actually is a graphic designer, and she took our application, and some of the applications that we've had in the past were more of just kind of a narrative. It read more like a book. Well, she took it and kind of made it into a magazine style read. So it really caught the reader's attention. It was eye grabbing. She really polished it and took it to that next level. We all know Bob Peisch Sports. He did all the video work, did the interviews. for certain business owners, myself, that were included in our visual presentation. Dustin Hewitt. He formerly worked at St. James. He actually worked through the 4th of July weekend and put the visual once we were selected into the top 3, he put the visual presentation together and worked with Brett Hunter, who was actually our presenter when we made the finals, and those two individuals spent an enormous amount of time and energy right through the 4th of July weekend, up against a hard deadline, and worked together to get it down. They had to basically set up a script. You only get 15 minutes for the live presentation. So imagine that you have 3 different municipalities, and there's $10 million at stake, and you go in the room and you got 15 minutes to wow the judges, and that's what Brett Hunter did. As some of you may know, Brett is a professor up at Alfred University, and I can't say enough about Brett. It's a daunting task to take that on, to be the face of it in front of those judges, and he went in and knocked their socks off and really hit the ball out of the ballpark. Did a great job. IDA consultant Sean Hogan. It all started a few years ago when the DRI came out, and we've been applying right along. So we kind of had the foundation of the application. We've just built off from that over the years and improved it over the years. And Sean was an important role member, and as well as Jim Griffin from the IDA, and Jim was a contributor right along the way. But it was really a team effort and a team lift that got us here, and these folks volunteered so much of their time, just really an enormous amount of time. You think about a typical application. You have a grant writer writes it up, submits it, and off it goes. This is unlike any other grant that I've ever seen. We had this team. We had a series of meetings, weekly meetings, phone calls, emails, you name it, and what a team effort it was, and a huge thank you to all of them. Plus the community. We had community meetings. Community was involved as well, and without that community support, we wouldn't be here talking about it today.
Talking to Hornell Mayor John Buckley this morning about the $10 million, they call it the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative money that Hornell, it was announced by the Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul that Hornell won yesterday. Wondering, Mayor Buckley, did Alstom, and dropping the name Alstom in the grant application, was that part of it, and the other rail businesses? Did that have anything to do with Hornell winning?
Well, part of the application has to do with prior investment and the recent investment, and Alstom obviously plays a huge role in that. The state government has invested nearly $30 million into Alstom recently, and as far as infrastructure upgrades, including the bridge and the mile-long test track and the new static test building that they built. So the state has a huge investment into Alstom. But not only that, we have we have a lot of private investment in Hornell recently as well. The Reedman Corporation with the apartments on Fair Lawn, the Bassett Group on the up towards the airport, Marion and Rohr building, which is being transformed into market rate apartments. We've had a lot of businesses, small businesses open downtown over the last several years and continue to do so. Look at the courthouse. We've got numerous businesses that are opening there, including the Book Bar, which opened last week, and there's 2 more businesses that'll be opening in the coming weeks that I have on my calendar for ribbon cutting. So we have a lot of investment in the city and in downtown, as a matter of fact, and this grant, I think, is really going to take us to the next level. It's really going to be that really open that door to economic opportunity, and I think it's just such a wonderful thing for the city of Hornell, for the residents, and you'll see this rolled out over the next couple of years, and it does take a little while for the grant to come to fruition. They don't just cut you a $10 million check and say, hey, here you go, go do what you want. Obviously, there's certain projects that we had outlined in our application that we want to pursue, and chief among them is the educational center that we want to build, and that's we're looking at the Tuttle and Rockwell building, which is actually owned by the IDA, and what we're hoping to do there is turn it into a learning/education center where we could have Alfred State College come in, Corning Community College, and offer those college courses to Hornell and area residents, which would be a wonderful thing.
Now, you mentioned Jim Griffin from the IDA in your answer there about who put the grant together. I'm wondering, he had an idea some years ago about a high-speed rail center of excellence. Did that come up at all? Would that proposed idea maybe benefit from some of this $10 million?
Yeah, that was an idea floated some years ago, and it never really came to fruition, but it's something that we would like to tie in eventually, obviously with Alstom right here in our backyard, and and it's important. One of the struggles I think Alstom has had over the past few years is finding not just finding employees, but finding employees with the right skill sets. And if we can identify the local needs of some of our manufacturers and identify those skill sets and try to pair them with the colleges to offer trainings and courses so they can acquire those skills where those folks can go right into the job market, I think would be a huge benefit for the residents, the city, and those businesses. So that is definitely worth pursuing and something that we haven't forgotten about. Some of the other projects that we're looking at obviously are on Main Street and Broadway. So a lot of people have a misconception. Well, the city just got $10 million. Oh boy, let's go do this and let's pave these roads. And well, it's the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. So you have to really look to see what it's for. So the DRI has boundaries, and the boundaries of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative are basically Seneca Street, Main Street, and Broadway. So it's Main Street from Center Street to Allen Street, and then all of Broadway, and then it extends up Seneca Street to Genesee Street. So those are the boundaries right there. And although some people just kind of glance at it and think, oh, geez, we could do something over at James Street, or we can do something over on this end of town. It's not. It has to fall within the boundaries of the DRI. So, but it's a great thing, and the whole purpose of it is to revitalize downtown, to make it more accessible, to make it more attractive, to make it more walkable, to get more people to come downtown and to stay downtown and to want to do business downtown, and even open up those second and third floors of those buildings that have been empty for so long. And we were talking before, one of the ideas, or one of the things in our grant application was a shared elevator bank on the back of some of these buildings downtown on the city hall side, because one of the impediments that the building owners have had over the years is just a lack of funding, because when there's state or federal funding required, or if they went out and try to pursue that money, there's always strings attached. They have to be ADA compliant, it has to be an elevator, fire escape, sprinkler system. Well, all these things cost money, and to someone who owns one of these buildings, they can't always necessarily afford to do that. But I think this grant could go a long way, and with those forming those partnerships and kind of bridging that to get them there to open these buildings up. So I think that there's a lot of great opportunities out there. There's obviously a process we have to go through, and we'll work with our partners at the state, and we're going to have a series of meetings coming up in the next. In the following weeks and months, and it's an exciting road to be on. This is, like I said, it's unlike any other grant we've ever seen before, and the process to go through the grant is different than what we're accustomed to. So it'll be a learning on our side, but we're ready and willing to do it, and we'll get there. It's very exciting.
We're going to take a quick break, then we'll check the forecast. We'll be back in just a moment with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. Stay with us.
Doors are being slammed in your face, and bad credit is holding you back from buying a house, car, even getting a credit card. $99 can put your credit back to a 720 or higher. Bankruptcy, tax liens, judgments, and even late pays can be removed from credit reports by calling the Giving Days Foundation. 800-543-5772. Don't miss this great free credit repair. Just be one of the first 10 callers. 800-543-5772.
Do you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes? The IRS has special programs in place that can eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. With a call to ATA, you can stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, call ATA to see if you qualify. 800-805-1055. That's 800-805-1055. 800-805-1055.
And before we get back to Mayor Buckley, let's check in with meteorologist Rob Carroll, who says, nice day today.
That's right, Brian. We've got high pressure still sitting over the area. Big storm out in the Atlantic, bringing clouds to the southeastern part of the state and some rain and wind to New England, but we've got high pressure over the top of us. It allowed another good night of radiational cooling, so we're chilly this morning. And some locations starting out with some patchy low cloudiness and fog this morning, but that will burn off and we'll be left with sunshine and a mild afternoon high of 65 to 70. Tonight should be clear to partly cloudy. A few of us may start tomorrow morning off with low clouds and fog, but all in all, it doesn't look too bad tonight, 40 to 45. Tomorrow, look for sunshine to develop, but it's just partial sun. High clouds will move in during the day, 65 to 70. Cold front leads to clouds tomorrow night, 40 to 45. Could see a few showers with the front on Saturday. Highs are going to be 65 to 70. And Brian, it's back to sunshine and mild weather for Sunday.
I was telling Mayor Buckley during the break that when WLEA was downtown above the old men's shop there on Main Street in Hornell, Kevin Doran one time, I don't know how he did it, but he got a speaker in down near a sewer area. So when people would be walking down Main Street and he'd start talking to them as if he was in the sewer, and he's looking up down at them, from the window above on Main Street. It was a practical joke. I don't know if he did that on the air or if that was an off-air thing, but I thought that was kind of a funny downtown memory. Talking to Hornell Mayor John Buckley. Let's talk St. James now. The old, as we call it, the old St. James building. What's going to happen to that?
So I've been in talks with Trinity, who actually owns the building. See, St. James doesn't actually own the facilities at the current hospital now. Trinity actually owns it, and we've had numerous discussions over the last year and continue to do so about what happens after St. James pulls out of there. And so we are discussing it. Nothing has been decided. Nothing's set in stone, but the direction they want to go in, and I want to go in, is to demolish the building and build residential homes, and even I think there's even a potential for mixed use on down at Canasteel Street. There's a lot of opportunity. Obviously, it falls within an opportunity zone, and so there's some I think that could open the door to development and some investment there. If you look at where the current hospital is, Brian, it sits smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. And over the last several decades, a lot of homes have been taken down to create parking spaces. So I think it'd be appropriate to repopulate that neighborhood with traditional homes, and that's the direction I'd like to see him going. Obviously, there's a lot of cost to demolishing a structure like that, but I will give Trinity some credit though, because in the talks that I've had with them, they want to do right by the community, and they've told me that they don't want to leave the just an old dilapidated building sitting there and leave the city or the residents high and dry. So I think they're doing the right thing, and we'll continue the talks and see where the funding streams are, where they can get some assistance in doing this. So. But as I said, nothing's set in stone as of yet. We're still exploring it, but there is movement there.
Now, I know you have to get going for a meeting, so cut me off if you have to, Mayor Buckley. The new hospital construction, the new medical office building up in the old Kmart Plaza area. Anything you can tell us about what's going on there?
Well, I just took a tour of the new the new hospital, and I think it was about 3 weeks ago. I brought some folks from City Hall up there and and Brian O'Donovan gave us a nice walking tour of the facility. And I'll tell you one thing that really stuck with me is, when you drive by, it doesn't look all that big, but when you actually go in it and you're walking around, it's larger than you would think. And there was just an incredible amount of time and effort and planning that went into the design and layout of the new facility. I think it's going to be phenomenal myself. And the nice thing is there's room for expandability. And even though they won't commit to maternity, I think as the city grows and our population increases, which it is increasing, and you see that as evidenced by the new housing developments that have been springing up all over the city. As our population grows and as the city expands and grows, I think you're going to see more and more pressure, to have that maternity back in the city of Hornell or back at St. James. Obviously, they'll have to make that determination down the road. But the first things first is to get the doors open, get the patients in there, get the customers in there, right? I mean, that they have to go there, and that's one thing that I always preach is we have a hospital, use the hospital. We have the medical village, use the medical village, use the facilities, and be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. Because the more we use those facilities, the more they grow, and we have to really support. We always talk about support local business. Well, the medical community is part of that. Support local business, but support your local medical community as well. And let's grow this and take it to the next level.
That's great. I know you got to run. I did have like 3 or 4 other questions, but we'll grab you next time. Mayor John Buckley, thank you for coming in.
Brian, thank you so much. It's always great to be here.